Well, hello and welcome to the latest edition of the About Small Business podcast. In this week's edition, I'm really excited because it's going to be a real music-themed discussion. I'm chatting to Lee Brown, who is a professional guitarist, professional musician, and essentially makes his living by living his passion, doing what he loves. Lee, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for doing this. We're now in the hub of what you do. This is your studio session.
It is, yeah.
And what a cracking little studio it is. So, Lee, fundamentally, you live your life as a musician. Can you tell me what that kind of entails? What do you...
Day to day, most of my work's weekend.
Yeah.
I play in two bands, and I do a lot of solo stuff. I used to do like buskers nights and things during the week.
Yeah.
Which is where we first met.
Indeed, yes.
But that's sort of, I don't know, that whole scene seems to have weakened. I'm down to I do one of them a month now.
Whereabouts are you working now for that?
I do the Corner House in Newcastle once a month.
Right.
One Sunday a month. And it's fine. And as a result, I'm picking up more stuff during the week and the odd gig during the week, which pays better than the buskers do.
Yeah.
So I'm not really any worse off.
No.
Then solo wise, I do a lot of solo acoustic stuff.
Yeah.
And that can be anything from a restaurant, which is seldom, to just a pub or a bar. There can be lively bars, there can be out in the sticks bars, there can be busy city centre bars in Newcastle, things like that, or in Durham. And then I've got a trio and a band. Now, as far as bands are concerned, with the people I'm playing with, I'm just so blessed to be playing with some of what I think are some of the best musicians in the Northeast, you know?
Yeah. So, and what because obviously you go out on as solo, you go under your own name, don't you?
Yeah.
What are your band's called?
My trio is called Fuse, and the function band I work with is called Storm.
Right. So a trio and a function band. How many in the function band?
But that many.
Right.
It varies. It depends how much the client's prepared to pay.
Yeah.
But at minimum, it has to be a minimum of 5. But I've seen up to 9. I mean, my first gig with them was there was guitar, bass, drums, 2 singers, maybe 3 singers, 2 brass, keys, and percussion. So it's like 10 on the first Yeah.
And what sort of venues were you playing with that size of band? Because you're going to struggle in your local pub with that.
No, it tends to be conference. So that first gig was Hardwick Hall.
Right.
So that band plays venues like that all the time.
Right.
That's about the minimum. We do Gosforth Park and quite a lot of functions in there. And then we might travel anywhere doing a lot of corporate stuff. So we're in Harrogate the other week. We're in Manchester. We're in Manchester or Leeds this Saturday. This is a good one. We do Jewish weddings.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a niche in the market. It started before I joined the band. And I think the story goes that they were doing a gig somewhere and somebody said to them, "Oh, love your band. I wish you could do my wedding, but you don't do Jewish music."
Okay.
Or Israeli music. And Chris, who runs the band, thought on his feet, says, "We can do that." So he then set himself away and researched and found all the tunes that we needed, that they needed at the time, put them together, and we've got a little pad of Israeli stuff.
Wow.
We do at these weddings.
That's not the sort of thing that you think about, is it?
No.
Just these little niches that just come up and present themselves as opportunities.
And I think the whole music business is about little opportunities like that.
Yeah.
And capitalising on them.
Yes.
You know, for me, for my solo stuff, I saw a post on Facebook, who's available right now? And it was somebody I knew, a guy I knew. I'd worked with a band before. And he didn't know that I did solo stuff. I said, "Oh, I can do it." And he's like, "Do you do solo?" Yeah. Okay. Can you get to Durham? And can you be on in 30 minutes? And, it's 25 minutes to Durham from here.
Yeah.
So I get as quick as I can there. And I did the gig. Great feedback. And then immediately it was like, right, there's 9 more gigs.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of gigs for the band as well. and just little things like that sort of seem to be how the business is built, but back to the Jewish thing, it was sorry, I shouldn't say Jewish, I should say Israeli, because it's a bit broader than that, and that's how the music's categorized. But it was when I joined, it was a bit of a surprise. Was it? No, actually it wasn't, because when I met Chris, who runs the band, I met him at a buskers night.
Right. Obviously great for networking.
Yeah, but he didn't know there was a buskers night on. It was a pub over the road from his house.
Right.
And he'd gone in I think he'd gone in for a pint after he'd been out somewhere else. And he's like, what's going on? And you just get talking as you do. I got him for a song. And then he came in once or twice after that. Then I got a message, must have been a month. I hadn't seen him for a month, 2 months or something. And it just said, phone me. All right. I'll phone you. And he's like, I need somebody to play this couple of gigs, and then we need somebody to join the band. And so that went from there. So a complete chance to being in a big deal function band, that's going out for silly money. I have no idea what we're going out for, really.
Yeah.
I know what my fee is.
Yeah, which obviously you're more than happy with, and that works.
And the band that band's not just a band. It's a big business, and he does a lot of higher stuff and a lot of corporate stuff. And the band is one of the branches of his business.
Right.
They do screens and things like that. So for instance, my first gig, I got there, they'd put a stage in, they'd put screens in that were like as wide as this room is and as tall as the room is behind the band.
Yeah.
And then all the lighting, everything. And you walk in and you think, wow, this is quite a lot. So yeah, that's a big operation, and we just sort of, each one of us does our bit, but everybody in the band, it's just, you look at them, you're thinking, I'm playing, I get to play with you, and I get to play with this guy, and I get to play with this guy, and it's like a who's who of some of the bestest players in the region, and I get my trio. I've got a drummer who he might make me cut. He might make you cut the naming out, but he's called Malcolm. He was in Richie Blackmore's band for 10 years.
Oh wow!
And now he's been playing with me for like nearly 10 years now.
Who does he prefer?
Oh, me, obviously. And then I've just got a new bass player who's a great player. He can read anything. He can just play. So now I'm in a position where if I want to do an arrangement, I can just sit back and write it out. So there you go, and there you go.
Yeah.
And it's done. Or I can just just pick a tune and we go with it. It's great. But just the quality of those three guys. We did the first gig with the three of them this Sunday, and when something just clicks and you think, this is absolutely cooking.
Yeah.
And it was just, there wasn't many in, but it was just like, I'm looking to my left and behind, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is.
It's
like,
just working.
This is special,
So in terms of percentage wise, what kind of percentage you had to sort of divide it out? Would you say were for your solo, trio, and the function band?
It varies. It really varies month to month. The way I tend to run my diary is if it's in and it's band, then that's what I do.
Yeah.
The function band are great because they will, if I've got another band date in, they know I'm letting other people down if I have to cancel on top of. So they'll say to me, look, yes, you can put a dep in, and drummer does that. Everybody sort of does that and puts deps in. My trio, obviously, I have to be there because I'm playing guitar and singing it. I can't really get myself out in that one. The solo stuff I do quite a lot of that, and that fills all the gaps.
Yes.
And it can come in quite late. So, if there's nothing in for Friday, I know something will come in.
Yeah.
The other week I had one gig in over the weekend on the Monday. By the following Monday, I'd done 5 gigs. Just stuff coming in.
So it clearly keeps you busy.
Yeah, and sometimes the diary's full for months on end. For the most of the rest of the year, the weekends are fairly full.
Yeah.
But that was just a bit of an anomaly weekend where there was just not a lot in for some reason. But it fills. So now I'm not worried about filling my diary. I know I'll find stuff. And the bookers I work with who do all the solo acoustic stuff, when I joined the function band, I just messaged them, I phoned them, said, look, I'm doing this. I've got stuff in my diary with you. If something comes in and I need to cover it. I won't take the mic time wise.
Yeah.
Are we cool that we just take that and we'll put somebody in? And everybody has said to me, yeah, it's absolutely fine. We're not, don't want to hold you back from doing something like that. And if you want to work with us and you're doing that and that clashes, it's absolutely fine.
It's about building relationships with you, so they know they're not going to be let down.
Yeah,
then
that's it. And I just had to do it the other day, and it was Phil Hughes. I don't know if you've spoken to Phil Hughes.
Yes.
But Phil had some dates in for me. He had this date in for me, and it was like function bands coming on top. So I just messaged, and he was absolutely fine about it. And he's, again, it's one
He'll
of those
know
things.
enough people as well. So.
Yeah, you speak to people beforehand.
Yeah.
And say, look, this is the situation I'm in. Are we cool with it? And they've always said yes. Dan Wales,
communication.
Fitzgibbon's been great with it. I mean, all great people you probably should have a word with.
It's no, that's
some great people. Some just people working together.
Yes.
And it's like, well, yeah, you help me out, and I'll do what I can for you.
And it creates a scene.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
and just for clarity, I don't know if we've got this in shot. We've got a huge number of guitars there. I would like to point out to my family that you do actually have more than me, and I do actually need to get more guitars. You play guitar, obviously. I can see a banjo. I see a selection of ukuleles up there. Fundamentally, you're a guitarist and singer.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
I'm a guitar player.
Guitar player.
And the singing sort of came out of necessity.
Yes.
For years, I did club bands and things like that. And
I was going to go. Can we go back before then? Let's. So, how old were you when you started playing guitar?
I don't remember there not being a guitar in the house. My dad was a big music fan. He was never a pro.
Yeah.
And he never gigged really, but he was always a huge music fan, and there was always guitars there. And I remember being really little and being put to bed, and he would sing to me, and he only knew a few chords, but he would play something to me on this guitar.
Right.
And I think I must have been. I had a book and I had stickers on it and things like that, and I just remember knowing where the notes were.
Yeah.
I must have been. I don't know. I must have been 6 or 7.
Right.
I didn't start playing. I would never say to anybody I started playing when I was 6 or 7.
Right. Okay. But that interest there.
Plinked, and yeah. And then it got. I had some lessons when I was 12, 13.
Right.
On acoustic, and it was classical, and it was all right. And I learned to read a bit and know my way around, but then I just didn't engage with it, and I didn't engage with the music.
I was just about to say, were you classically trained at all? So
not really.
A few lessons, but fundamentally.
Just, I mean, I know how to sit with it, and I know what the notes are, but I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
Right.
And then.
Would you say fundamentally you were self-taught?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So I had classic lessons. Then I dropped it altogether until I got to about 15.
Right.
Conveniently, just before my O levels, and I got hooked. Maybe September time of year 11, and I asked for electric guitar for Christmas. And obviously my dad was into music, so yeah, of course you can have an electric guitar. There you go.
I had a very similar story actually.
Yeah.
I started off on drums. No way. We were living in a terraced house. There was no way I was getting a drum kit. I then thought, right, synthesizers. They look amazing. Then then the cost of the synthesizer cost more than most houses did at that point. Yep. So that was a no. And then it's like, so my dad played, it's like your guitar, loved playing guitar, didn't take it especially seriously, but loved playing guitar. And so he thought, all right, that's the way to go, because he'll be up for me getting an electric guitar. So he did. I bought, and he got me an old battered acoustic. It was action like an egg slicer. I'm sure you're familiar. And persevered with that, and eventually got my first electric guitar. I think I was 13. I got a Tokai Strat. So what was yours then?
I had a little acoustic. I got them. My uncle used to repair amplifiers and gear for everybody in Clubland.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the go-to repair guy in South Shields, and I would go to stay at his house over the weekend, and there'd be troops of guys with bad toupees and all that kind of thing, and Clubland medallions, all wandering through with gear and dropping it off and bringing it. And he got this one at a discount because it had a bit of a. I got it for next to nothing for me dad. And then he had an Epiphone 330. or the 330 version of.
Right.
And it had a whammy bar on it, and I was just obsessed with that whammy bar. So every time I went around, I'd just make some noise with it, or wham with it. And then after that, my first guitar that I had, first electric, was a Satellite Les Paul copy.
I remember them. I remember the satellites.
Yeah, proper, slightly dodgy.
Yeah.
You know, it had a humbucker-sized case with a... I took it apart once and there was a single coil in it. But it got me going, and then I had a Kramer Focus.
Right.
Because it was the 80s.
And that's when we're getting serious.
Yeah, and I had a... Yeah. And then I traded that for a Charvel, which I regret not keeping, because that was my first proper super. Well, yeah, it was that Super Strat era, and that was the next step up. And I played that for a long time. And I started college with that, and then halfway through college, I got. It's not here. It's downstairs. I got a Strat.
Fender Strat.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to say there's probably people watching that maybe don't know a lot of the humbucker terminology.
Right.
I think most people will understand Fender Strat.
You can cut a picture in there.
That's it.
But yeah, I got that just because it was like.
Were you playing in bands all this time or not?
Nah, not at that point. No.
All right.
I wasn't really up to it at the time when I was going to college as a musician.
So how old were you in your first band?
My first gig, I wasn't really in a band. I was at college.
Yeah.
And this was on a Monday, and some lads had a gig in Hexham.
Yeah.
At Queen's Hall at school.
All right.
Was it Queen's? No, it was a school. It was a school hall. Doing like jazz fusion stuff. So they're like, handed me the charts on the Monday. Right, we're doing this gig. We'll have a run through on Thursday. So I'm like landed with this stuff, just trying to get my head around it for enough as many days as I could.
Yeah.
We jumped on the train with enough gear to get us through this gig, and we're in this school hall playing like Chick Corea stuff. As the first gig was like Return to Forever, and was like
your first gig.
First gig.
So I'm just going to pause you there. Right, you've just told me that you'd not played in bands previously because you weren't up to it, and your first gig is playing complex jazz.
Yeah.
Which for anyone watching who doesn't know Chick Corea, have a listen to it. It's not easy to play. So that's
I'm not going to say I'm good at it.
To be fair, you could probably play anything and just claim it as experimentation.
Well, if you've got enough confidence, you can get away with a lot. But yeah, my first proper gig was playing. Well, I remember we did 500 Miles High and a few other bits and pieces like that, and then a few jazz standards knocked in, and that was my first gig.
Wow.
And then after that, I did a couple of bits with. We had a little band. Actually, it wasn't little. We had a 5-piece brass section.
Yeah.
And we played a few bars, art century things and things like that.
Yeah.
And that was good. And that band actually rehearsed. And then after I left college, I started working men's clubs, and I played for a few sort of club bands.
Right. This is quite interesting to me actually, because it's kind of not what I expected.
Right.
You're relative, because I mean, I think it would be reasonably fair to assume you, in terms of gigging musicians, you are one of, I know there's a few guys out there, the most prolific giggers in the Northeast. You're a relatively late starter. When you were at school, what did you want to do?
Once I was 15, I knew I wanted to do music.
Really?
Yeah.
So you've been around it, hadn't taken it especially seriously. I mean, did you do music at school?
No.
No. So what were your main strengths at school then?
Technology, sciences.
Right. And were you not sort of headed for career in that? And then what were you doing at college?
Yeah, I think I was one of 2 or 3 kids in my year that did 3 sciences. And then college-wise, I did a year of 6th form. I did biology and something else. I can't remember what else I did, to be honest. I don't know what my levels were.
Nothing that inspired you that
Nothing,
much.
nothing that inspired me enough to want to stay. And I did a year of that, and then I went to college and I went to do a foundation course in music.
All right. So, in terms of music, then was that traditional music or more music?
It was a foundation course. It was like real basics. So we did. That's when I did my GCSE or O-level music.
Right.
In that year, and then I wanted to get on the graduate course. I didn't get onto the graduate course first time round, so I did another pre-graduate year, if you like.
Yeah.
And then I got onto the graduate course. And once I was on the graduate course, that was the start of the path. So I was there for 4 or 5 years.
Right. And were you doing electric guitar on this? Because I just remember because I did music A level, and I was one of the first years that they allowed you to do electric guitar.
Right.
For A level. And I did find it funny because the pieces were tremendously, when you compare it to friends who were playing these really technical grade 8 piano pieces.
Yeah.
And I think I played Johnny Be Good.
Right.
And Crossroads by Eric Clapton, which, I mean, with the best will in the world, just comparable. But yeah, so you were doing electric guitar at college.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I did. The course was jazz, popular, and commercial music.
Right.
But it was actually mostly jazz.
Yeah.
And us pushing for something else, it was like no. And I had Jim Burkett was teaching me guitar for a long time, and Jim's an absolute monster, monster musician and a monster player. And he's got a bit of a liking for the more rock stuff and the Hendrixy stuff. But he doesn't really. He certainly did that for a long time, but he didn't go much further than that. And his world was like the solo jazz guitar, the Barney Kessels, that kind of thing. And that's what he taught.
Yeah. I suppose arguably that style of thing is more academic and would perhaps lend itself more to gradings and.
Is it? I don't know. Because when it came to doing assessments, I didn't do any of that. I did very little of that. I mean, as close as I came was a Borelli Legrand solo piece.
Right.
Then the rest of it, I was doing fusion stuff and like all the GRP stuff. Do you remember the GRP label, which was Dave Grusin,
right,
who put together a record label, and it was just everybody fusion. It was like that cool 80s kind of fusion. So all the Miles Davis records of that era, the Lee Ritenour records, Frank Gambale appeared all of a sudden.
Yes.
All of that kind of thing came along, and that's what I was really into and listening to.
Right, so you properly immerse yourself in, I suppose, guitarist music then?
That and 80s metal.
Right.
And hair metal. That was because when I was at school, that was the thing that really hooked me into music was all that rock stuff.
Yeah. Sort of Bon Jovi, Europe, that kind of thing.
Yeah, first Bon Jovi album came out, bought that, and that was like, that's what I want.
I think that spawned an awful lot, to be fair. That's my era too, and yeah, the tremolo system. We're getting very technical for non-people. No, that's not a problem. Then, like I say, that's why I wanted to do this interview. So you, there is quite a leap, I suppose, from doing the kind of music that you were doing at college to regular pub gigs, or was there at the time? Was there more of a scope to?
No, I mean Jim's attitude was, I can't possibly let you leave this college without being able to play solo electric guitar, because you'll struggle to make a living, and you need to be able to do that to play in restaurants and do this and this and this.
Well, that's interesting that that's a consideration.
Well, that was his concept, and that was where he'd come from, and that was what his experience was. But I've never done a solo guitar gig, ever.
Right.
It's always been singing or with bands,
Yeah.
And it's always been pop and rock stuff.
There's just more demand for that.
And we were schooled by big band players. I mean, Ray Chester was a huge big band player.
Yeah.
And a big name at the time, and he had a big band, and it was all that jazz kind of stuff. And it was like, you do a wedding, you do that. That's what you need to do. And it wasn't until much later on we realised actually people don't want to listen to big band swing at the wedding, And then I sort of drifted into club band, which is sort of what I wanted to do. And you're playing pop music and rock music and all that kind of thing, and the things that you actually can relate to and will fill a dance floor.
Enjoying and getting the buzz off the crowd.
And that club, 2 or 3 years that I did clubs, was a really fast learning curve as to what's going to work in the real world. And it's what set me up for all the solo acoustic stuff, all the other stuff I do, all the principles you learn there just work.
Yeah.
And, from clublands in the 90s, the same rules apply to playing in a nice bar in town, doing a solo acoustic set. It's just the same things work.
Yeah.
And the same way you with the way you organise the songs you play, the songs you do play, the songs you don't play, you just learn it all there.
Absolutely. So in terms of did you have a day job at the time when you as soon as you left college, or no? So you went straight into
I was skinned.
I think to be fair, I don't think anyone really expects to go into the music industry and be loaded, unless you maybe sort of perhaps deluded, maybe sort of making rap music. I think as guitarists, I think we sort of just accepted our lot. It's like, we do
it
what
can
we
be
love.
done. Some people do make a lot of money, and some people do very, very well from it.
Yeah.
But what you find is the people who do well without the rock star fame kind of thing, or the session gods, broaden and do other things as well.
Yeah.
And it could be music related. It could be not so music related.
I was going to ask you about that. At any point,
after I did the club thing, I went and worked on cruise ships for a little while.
Right.
And that was a whole other side of it. And but again, great experience.
That's one thing I've noticed since moving up here. There's a lot of good musicians have cut the teeth on either the clubs or cruise ships, if they're done well, and it's kind of like a mark of respect in many ways. It's like sort of a mark of competence. So in academic world, you maybe get GCSEs and A levels. In the local musician circuit in the northeast, you've got the clubs and the cruise ships.
Yeah, I think at the time, because there was no recording scene to get into.
Yeah.
If you wanted to work, you did the clubs, and you would go away and do cruises, and that was it.
Yeah.
Unless you moved to London or moved somewhere else. Yeah. That was your route, and that was where.
Did you ever have any desire to move down to London?
Yeah, I was very, very tempted. A band came along, and it was a tribute band way before tribute bands were a thing.
Yeah.
And I was very, very, very tempted, but it just, something just doesn't quite feel right.
Not for you.
Yeah. So I didn't go. Do I regret it? Maybe. Would things turn out differently? Possibly. But then I did the cruise ship thing, and then it all went horribly wrong after that, because I came back from the cruise ships.
Right.
And as I did, nothing to do all day, so what do? You practice.
Yeah.
Because you're keen and you're determined to get better, and you want to get better at everything. And I managed to work myself to a point where I got this arm, I destroyed it with tendinitis.
Right.
And I had to stop going from playing 8 to 10 hours a day to being told, don't play guitar at all.
How did that make you feel?
I went crazy. I couldn't go.
Did you actually take the advice? And
yeah,
you had to,
because it hurt so much.
Right.
And the only way I could see back was to not play and to listen to others try. I tried acupuncture, that didn't work. I tried they put clamps on your arms and strap it up, and that didn't work, and all sorts of things that just didn't work. And then I sort of eased back into playing, but it was I had creams I had to put on my arm to keep to cauterize to make it work, basically.
Yeah.
And it got really, really difficult to be able to balance playing at the weekend and having time, because effectively my time with the guitar in my hands was limited.
Yeah.
And I had to only use so much of it because I couldn't cope with much more.
Right.
And after a band that I was in at the time broke up, I got into teaching and I just stopped playing. I didn't play for about 8 years.
Right. So you had I suppose a career change forced upon you.
Yeah, ish, yeah.
And then teaching, were you teaching music or were you teaching another subject?
I went into teaching music, and my first couple of jobs were music. But then when I went to the job that I was in for the longest period of time, I went in as a head of year, and I didn't teach music at all, really, or
Right.
very little. They just hired me as a head of year and said, "What can you teach?" And I said, "Music." And we don't need a music teacher. All right, okay. Well, I've done a bit of technology. I can do that. I don't need that. Then they said to me, "Did you write your own CV?" Well, yeah. Did you type it up yourself? Yeah. Right, you do ICT. So when I started teaching, most of the timetable was ICT. And it sort of, and I ended up doing other things and broadening
Yeah.
it. But yeah, that was my route into that school as head of year, was that because I typed my own CV. I'm teaching ICT. So there's a lot of stuff I was learning the night before. I teach that in the morning. How does that work? What do you do?
That's it. So I mean, obviously, you a lot of your musician work is work at night time. Have you ever supplemented that work with teaching guitar?
I have taught guitar a little bit. I did it early on. I did it when I was at college. I did it after I was at college when I was doing the clubs. Because again, in the north there are not many routes to
Yeah.
making money that are local, if you like.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. But I've not done that for 20 odd years, 30 years maybe.
That's
A long,
interesting.
long time.
That's interesting because I mean, one thing I did want to
Actually, no,
mention.
I did. I was working in doing wider opportunities in schools, and some of them were. I was teaching beginner guitar for them. It was 2 years.
Right.
Uh,
So within the school rather than private tuition.
yeah.
Right. Got you. Because one thing I did want to mention to you is and this was. Well, actually, before we go onto your YouTube channel, which is a pretty successful channel, lockdown.
Mm.
Now, I know how that affected a number of musicians. That must have really affected you quite badly.
Yeah, because I went from 5, 6 gigs a week to none instantly.
Yeah.
I remember doing the very last gig on the very last night, and then suddenly it was like, well, that's it then.
Yeah.
Then that was on the Friday night. By the Wednesday, I was incredibly ill with COVID.
Right. So you got one of the first to get it.
Oh, straight in, straight
Right.
in. No messing about. I'm having it. I was straight in, and I had COVID. I got COVID. I was really, really ill with it. I've never been as scared in my life, to be honest.
Right.
I lost nearly 2 stone in the space of 2 weeks. Didn't eat. It was horrendous. And then as you slowly come back from it, so that initial shock of I'm not allowed to work, I'm going to go crackers, didn't really happen for me because I was too ill.
Yeah. You other
Anyway,
priorities.
yeah. Just it was like, can I get to the bathroom without collapsing on the floor for half an hour, and can I get back? And that was my priority at the time.
Yeah.
And then slowly easing back into it. It was, in a lot of ways, it was like, it was a relief.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to do anything. There was nothing I could do. And it was like, and it was just suddenly all the pressure off. And the big thing was, I'm not missing out or anything, because there's no gigs to go to. There's no gigs to play, and nobody else is doing it. So I'm not missing out because there's nothing to miss out on.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting a chance to play.
Yeah.
And that lasted a while, and then
How did you cope financially? Did you get any support for that? Or?
not a penny.
Right. So
Absolutely
what
nothing.
did you do? Just relying on savings or?
Savings, and I've got some investments and things like that. I've got some properties and a little bit of property income, but mostly just relying on cash I had. But to be fair, there wasn't a lot to spend it on.
No.
You buy things to eat,
Yeah.
and you buy enough diesel to go to the shops and back.
Yeah, that's it.
That was about it, really. So no, I didn't get any money at all, but I didn't really spend a lot.
Yeah.
So that wasn't.
So you managed, and I suppose grateful that
Well,
worse things didn't happen.
Yeah, I had conversations with other people at the time, and I've always had that self-employed. I've always been either self-employed. I've had long stretches where I was self-employed, and certainly beginning my career, I was self-employed for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always had the common sense to think, right, well, I need a cash buffer. Of course, you need a cash buffer.
Yeah.
You need a good few months worth.
Yeah.
Just sitting there, so in case things do go badly, or you you hurt yourself. You get to that.
You have to think about money so
got to
differently,
have
don't
that.
you?
Yeah.
You've got to think. I mean, I remember when I first went self-employed, it's like sort of right, okay, and you've just got to really prepare yourself because things might go. And I think you're more acutely, and I think that's a lot of people that get made redundant. That's worse because you don't always see that coming, and it's like just this massive shock
Yeah.
to your finances. And
Well, if you have a wage coming in and you spend that much every month, and you get the end of the month, think, oh, I've got something left over, I'll go and buy something, I'll go and do that.
yeah,
Bumping out it goes. Suddenly you've got nothing coming in, you've got nothing.
yeah,
And people, that's the old trap. People rely on that.
yes,
And from being self-employed first, before
yeah,
I was ever employed,
yeah,
you learn that. Oh, I learned that mindset of right. Times are good. Let's save and invest.
yeah.
You know, and build a buffer up, and you just. I've always kept doing that.
So in terms of investments, do you mind me asking like sort of what sort of, I don't want some like no amounts or anything, but what did you decide was the best safeguard? Shares, property?
I bought my first house when I was 22, 23.
Right.
And then by the time I was mid-30s, there was quite a bit of equity in it. So I used that equity and I bought more houses.
Right.
So I built a little portfolio of properties up, which I'm sort of moving on now. And then later on, I've moved into the stock market and shares and that kind of investments.
And is that going to be acting as your pension as well, or have you got separate pension schemes or anything?
I've got a teacher's pension, but it's not a big one because I wasn't in full-time teaching for a particularly long time. I think I did 15 years in teaching.
Right.
Just a little bit more, not much more. So I've got a small teacher's pension. I'm not getting it yet, but which will kick in.
Yeah.
And then the rest is just my own investments, really.
Right. So which you've been forced to do and had the foresight to do, which I think, to be fair, not every. I don't think as musicians, I don't think we've necessarily got the reputation of being the most sensible bunch.
No, but I always remember when I was first, I had an envelope, and that was my savings.
Yeah.
And I had an envelope on my bed, and if I had cash, it went into that envelope, and that was it. And that was my plan. And even from that point on, because I was living in a rented accommodation, and I knew my landlord quite well because he would come around once a week and cut the grass. And I just got talking to him, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, property's probably a good idea. So that envelope full of cash was, I'm going to use that to buy a house, and I'm going to think about maybe buying another one. And I did it like that, and I bought my first house, and I rented a room out, and what I was getting from the room covered the mortgage. Again, just squirrel away and invest, and you just build from there and compound it, you know.
And you just realise that yourself. Yeah, that in itself is quite impressive. And great for the future. So I mean,
it's maths, and people don't do the maths. You sit down with a compound calculator and you think, how will that compound? And that's probably a completely different video. But yeah, if you sit down, people don't do the maths.
Yeah,
just do the maths.
Yeah,
because if you want to retire at that point, and you don't know how much you need to retire at that point, well, what are you doing? You're just guessing, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you work it out. How much do I need? How much do I need to put away? How much do I need to make? What happens if I don't make that doing this? What do I do? Have a plan.
Yeah. No, that's very good advice. I don't know if we'll maybe sort of jump in a little bit from there, but I did mention it earlier on your YouTube channel, because that's something you started in lockdown, wasn't it?
I did, yeah.
And I remember seeing on Facebook, you just actually put a video out saying, yeah, right, this is it, guys. I'm going to start a YouTube channel.
You mean the begging for people to subscribe to my channel?
Basically, I mean, I wasn't going to put it like that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And I remember thinking, well, yeah, you know, okay, I've got a couple of YouTube accounts, I'll subscribe, which I think is probably as good a time as any to say to people, please, if you are enjoying what we're doing on this channel, please click the subscribe button and the notification button so you see what's coming up. But certainly, I remember that for yours, and I think I subscribed from 2 accounts.
Right.
And you'd got, I think, a few subscribers, maybe sort of few friends had like sort of helped you out.
Yeah.
And I have watched a lot of your videos, which if you are into guitar content, it's well worth a watch. It's well worth a look at. Um, so I did find, yeah, there's some useful content on here. And then next, you've got all these thousands of subscribers. So
It's not that many, but uh, you try and build it, and it's difficult when you're very very busy
yeah,
to be consistent with it. So it goes through spurts, and I'll do a wad of videos, and then I'll not have time to do any, and I haven't got the common sense to think, or the patience. Not convinced I'm ADD because I want everything done straight away.
yeah,
But I haven't got the patience to think, right, well, I've done that video and I've done 2 or 3 in the space of a week.
yeah.
I'll space them out over a month and release them over a month. I just put them straight out. And then that
That's
means I've
interesting
got,
because that goes totally against what you were just saying, what you're doing with your finances, where you've been really sensible. And with the YouTube stuff, you know what to do.
it's impatience.
Yeah,
It's impatience. And it's that I need to get clicks, I need to get
yeah,
subscribed, and the more you do, the more you do, and then you're also thinking, right, I'm doing loads of videos now. I'll probably carry on doing loads of videos and keep that momentum up, but it's really hard to do.
it
Really
is hard.
to do.
It is. I knew when I started this channel, I knew it was going to be time consuming and it was going to be hard, and I did because I researched it. But even at that, it's like, wow, I didn't quite realize that it was going to take this long, because again, you've got to try and do your best to promote it as well, and it's
Yeah,
so it's a tough
the
gig.
editing can take forever. People look
Yeah,
at a YouTube video and don't realize that a 5 minute video might take you 5 or 6 hours to
yeah,
edit, even if it doesn't even look particularly complex.
no, that's it.
9 times out of 10, you've got that much content that you're thinking, oh, right, what do I cut out? And what do I keep? What do I cut out? Then there's the bits where you've sort of wandered down a blind alley, or you've stumbled over something, or you've said something badly. You think, no, I'll need to say that again. I'll do that bit again. And if you're working with a couple of cameras to show something, then you've got to then cut that in, and you've got to make sure it all lines. It can just take a long, long time.
Yeah,
Um, but it's nice when you get sort of a little bit of a response and views and good comments and things like
yeah,
that. That's quite
and it's
rewarding.
and a good profile for you professionally as well.
But I mean, a lot of my content can be quite time sensitive. So if a new product comes out,
Yeah,
you've got to do the video and get it out straight away,
yeah,
because there's going to be 1,000,001 people doing it, and there's also 1,000,001 people who've got bigger channels that have had that product for like a month, 2 months,
yeah. Maybe been
and have
sent
done
that
the
from
video
the
and have all released
manufacturer.
it on release date,
Yeah,
and suddenly there's lots of them. So if you want to get in with a chance of catching some of that wave, you've got to then get your video, do it, and get it out quickly.
yeah. So,
And that's not always easy.
no, absolutely not. So I mean, moving forward, then looking to the future, where do you see your future? Do you think you maybe sort of grow the YouTube channel, or do you just intend to keep gigging till you drop?
I'll gig till I drop. I know that I can't not do that. And then the YouTube, I just want to steadily grow it.
Yeah,
I'd like to find more people to partner with, or to collaborate with, or just people to maybe products to look at.
yeah,
And already I've had 1 or 2 people send me things, and or mention the channel and things on their stuff, which is nice. But I just need it's difficult, like I said, to keep that momentum, to make that happen more
yeah.
and more and more. You know,
So out of your whole career so far, then what would you say has been the highlight?
highlight. Every time I play, every time I pick up an electric guitar and play.
So just that constant buzz that keeps you going, that
Yeah,
you never want to lose. I think there is something about that. If that's in you,
yeah.
you can't let it go,
Just,
can you?
and if you're playing something that, and especially it's for me, it's improvising is the most fun.
Yeah,
And if you're just on a flow and you can feel it, and the band behind you is just delivering and cooking, that's the best buzz, I think. I mean, I've done gigs where I had a great one with a function band a few weeks ago, and I got a phone call in the middle of the afternoon from the lad that runs it. Says, "Does your wireless work all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." So, how far can it reach? I'm like, "Well, I don't know, 20, 30 meters." I'm rarely more than 4 or 5 away from it. So I'm going to put you on a podium in the middle. So I get to this venue, and there's the stage at the front.
Yeah.
And it's a big fundraiser that it's a function band. He's running it.
Yeah.
Big stage there. Stage at the far end with 3 singers on. Stage at that end with 3 singers on. And then me on a podium on my own in the middle.
I'm trying to tell you something, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, so that was good fun.
Yeah.
But like anything where I just get a chance to just go for it, really.
So basically, yeah, it is a cracking story. Someone
When
that's
when the rules are out the window,
yeah,
and it's just like, right, just go for it. Just
Yeah.
go for it. That's the best bit.
well, it does sound that is what you're going to continue to do until you do drop, which let's hope it's not for a long time. And
If I do, I want to go out like Tommy Cooper did.
that will be a show to go watch. Yes, I do remember that. I do remember. For those that don't, basically, he dropped down dead on stage and he's performing, doing what he loved.
Yeah, I remember watching. I was watching that.
You were watching?
Yeah, and nobody knew what was going on. And
No.
it was, but if you're gonna go doing what you love.
That's it, absolutely, and a cracking way to end the podcast. And I do hope you continue doing what you love for years and years to come. Lee, thank you very much for appearing.
Cheers, man. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.